Welcome to Ladies Talking Leafs. I'm Chris.
And I'm Sil.
And we hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving weekend with family, friends, and hockey, of course. I took some time out, of course, with hockey. I was checking out BetOnline website and saw that they actually have odds for the first NHL coach that will be fired. I didn't know that there was such a thing. Did you know that? Did you know that was
No,
a thing?
I didn't realize that was a prop that you could bet on.
Okay, yeah. So who is number one? Actually, the coach that we just played on the Saturday. We're recording this on the Sunday. It's Monday. I'm losing track of days already. Too much turkey. But anyways, it's who is number one is Mike Sullivan of the Pittsburgh Penguins. He's plus 300 to be the first NHL coach to be fired this season.
Wow.
Oh my God.
And he has he's on like a really long deal too, from what I remember.
Yeah. Well, that part of it is interesting because it's the whole thing with Kyle Dubas coming there, right? Like he was part of the negotiation part to say bring Dubas there as the whatever. I guess it was hockey operations, and then he ended up nominating himself to be a GM. So that'll be interesting when or if that time comes. But
well, yeah, he can't hire his buddy now, so I don't know who he would get. But anyway,
yeah, true. But just to let our audience know, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything sports betting. Every stat, matchup, breakdown, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. With the largest catalog of odds on everything from football, MLB playoffs, NHL, NBA to political props too. So that's another one.
Well, yes, with the American election coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. There'll be some interesting props to look at there.
Yeah.
Anyway, when the game's over, you can head on over to the online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of over 150 slot games. Head to the website betonline.ag today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. Please gamble responsibly, though. If you or someone you know needs some support or advice, you can always reach out to Connex Ontario or an organization near you. Place your limits and stay within it.
All right, so it's a new season, and we want to start off the show by giving you a quick introduction to Ladies Talking Leafs, because we know we have a lot of new listeners out there, and who we are, how we came to loving the Leafs, and how we got to be best friends and hockey buddies. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to let Sil start.
All right. So, of course, I'm Sil. Like most kids, I think I just, started loving the sport because I had a parent, my dad, an immigrant from Hungary who he loved sports. So hockey was so big here, and he just fell in love with it. And every night in front of Hockey Night in Canada on Wednesdays and Saturdays, because those are the only nights we got to watch back then, I could be found watching the game with my dad. And then fast forward to, when we were in our early 20s, Chris and I started working together for a company, and we basically bonded with our love for the Leafs. We started going to some games together, and of course, we've been talking Leafs ever since. And thus, Ladies Talkin Leafs was born. There were no podcast platforms back then for us to talk about it with you, but yes, we've been talking Leafs ever since.
Yeah, our podcast platform was in Maple Leaf Gardens, basically, with a whole bunch of Leaf fans there. But yeah, so. Kind of similar to Sil, but my Leaf fandom came from my Uncle John, who just lived down the street from me. And like Sil said as well, every Wednesday and Saturday night, 8:00, they had a little bit later start times then. It was hockey night, and I used to go over there and watch the games with him. And then eventually I was tired of walking across the road to go and watch the game there. So I used to stay upstairs in my mom's room. I had my own TV set up there, and the family was downstairs. I was upstairs watching the Leafs. And I have to say, first time I'm saying this, actually, my dad was a bit of a Habs fan. So, but he wasn't a huge hockey fan. Yeah, he wasn't a huge hockey fan, but my but he always wanted the Leafs to win, but I think he gave up because of the whole Harold Ballard time there or whatever. Yeah. And then, so basically that's where my love of the Leafs came from. And yeah, I did all the things when I was a kid. I did scrapbooks of all these I still have these newspaper clippings from God knows when, and from the 80s and into the early 90s. And then, me and Sil met at our work. And then, as she said, Ladies Talkin Leafs was born. So yeah, that was, it's great. We're thankful to have this podcast platform now to show our Leaf fandom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and be able to just share our love for the team with all of you. Anyway, so that's a little bit about us, but we also want to share a quick reminder that we are going weekly this season. We'll have an episode on the off week from our full-length episode, and we're calling this particular episode Leafs Quick Hits. So it's going to be a little bit shorter, and in it we will cover the games and any other Leaf news that comes up during the week. We already have released our first Leafs Quick Hits episode of the season, and we were fortunate enough to be able to speak with Leafs defenseman Simon Benoit. And you want to know which teammate Benoit would like to be stuck in traffic with? Give it a listen. Anyway, you can tune into that first episode of Leafs Quick Hits to find out of the answer to this and more from our interview with Simon Benoit. And you can find it on the Believe Network at Believe.com or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. So hit that follow button and we'll have you up to date on the Leafs all season long. So now it's time to get into our show, and we're excited to bring back our regular season segments, starting with the good, the bad, and the ugly. And then we're going to run the Ladies Talkin Leafs highlight reel. And then for a third period segment, we're going to take a look at the Leafs season and highlight some games to look forward to on the schedule and some road trip possibilities. So without any further ado, let's talk Leafs.
All right. So the good, the bad, the ugly. Coming back again. So this is going to be, I have a feeling we're going to have a lot of good this season. But for this particular show, I'm starting off with my fellow Mastoian friend, Chris Tanev on defense, who we just brought in, and he just fit like a glove there on the blue line with Morgan Riley. I mean, it's just so funny how it's like so much stability there when he's on the ice, or just calmness, I guess, when he's on the ice. He makes the good first pass out of the D zone to get the forwards going. And he blocks shots. Obviously, he's a premier shot blocker in the league. He blocked a shot last year in the playoffs with his face. So we all know about that. And, he blocks shots, and he even has a decent point shot too. A shot from the point when he gets time to tee it up. So and he's been great on the PK. And he's been a match with Morgan Riley. So over 3 games, I was actually kind of surprised. I thought he played more. He seems to be always out there, I guess maybe because we've had too many penalties, which is another thing that I'll get into. But he's only played 19 minutes, average 19 minutes of ice time, which is good because he is 34 years old. And he's going to be 35 in December. So
we're going to need some load management there.
Yes. Yeah. And of course, as I mentioned off the top, his family is a Mastoian background. So gotta support my Mastoian background heritage there. And I just love the way he's partnered up with Morgan Riley. It's exactly what he needs. And I think there's still some fine tuning on Riley's side, I guess, right? Like to try and get that chemistry a little bit too, like knowing when he can go and having that confidence that Tanev will be there to back him up. But
I just see them getting more and more comfortable with every game. I've been trying to watch him a little bit in isolation because, as we all know, with a good defenseman, you tend to not notice them so much because they're doing all the little things just to make everything else flow. And like Chris said, he's just basically giving us a lot of stability back there. But I've really noticed like how smooth he is going in on the back check and retrieving the puck and then quickly getting it going down the other way. He's just so good at those puck retrievals and that transition. Yeah, I've been really, really impressed watching him. Yeah, he's actually quite, I didn't really anticipate that he would be very graceful out there. But he really, really is. And like Chris said, just seamless with those retrievals and getting the play moving back in the opposite direction, which is what we want to see.
Yeah. All right. So what's your good?
So for me, I chose Matthew Knies. For those first 3 games, I have to say he is the guy that has really stood out for me. He is a real spark plug for me back there in a different way than, we've seen like Bunting or maybe Bertuzzi, in the last year. I think he is so strong, so much stronger than I think he even realized. Like that one check, I guess it was against New Jersey where that guy just bounced right off of him.
And he kept going.
Yeah. He's a bulldog out there and he's just going to become like, I think a really strong power forward in this league. And that is actually, he has a skill set and a style of play that is kind of, we don't see that as much anymore. Everything is really more about just skill. And of course we saw he does have skill with the puck. He had a beautiful goal. So yeah, I've just been really, really impressed with him so far. And looking forward to more and more good things from him.
Yeah. And like we said during the preseason, we said he has to get signed soon. And I am hearing, I just read this morning, actually, there has been rumors of a long-term extension. So I don't know. I'm hoping it gets done sooner than later because the longer it goes, it's going to salary cap situation. Like, it's the dollar signs are going to keep going up for him. So
definitely.
So yeah, no, he's played really well, and it was against the Pens. He had the nice goal there. So yeah, we're looking forward to watching more of Matthew Knies this season. That's for sure. All right. So let's go on to the bad. Bad for me is too many penalties. I mean, maybe I think it's because I'm not used to seeing them take so many penalties. I don't know. It's just like, or I mean, a couple of them were cheesy, usual thing with the refs. And it's the start of the season, so maybe they're just trying to prove a point or something. I don't know. The refs, I have no idea. But we've got 14 penalties over the 3 games, and
that is a lot.
Yeah, and so it's. I guess we're 21st in the league right now on the PK at 78%, and we've given up a goal in each of the past 3 games while shorthanded. So we've always given up a goal. So it's
and considering
not been good.
We haven't let in that many, that just tells you that, you know, what a detriment that is to us being in the box right now.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, there's not much more I can say for it. It's just that we have to, and I think that too comes from, I guess, the game that maybe Craig Berube is trying to teach the team. Right. He wants that toughness and that, but there has to be a limitation to it. I mean, on Saturday night, I think it was Benoit that got he's been getting a bit too many penalties lately, our friend. But he got a roughing penalty, but the other guy could have got a roughing penalty as well. But no, the refs chose to just give it to Benoit for some reason. So, but that's where I guess the physicality part of it, you gotta make sure doing the right spot. Pick your spot.
Yeah, exactly. Pick your spots for sure. Well, and actually, I think this, your bad leads very much into my bad, because I think part of the reason with the too many penalties, my bad is that they're kind of looking a little slow out there right now. Like, especially against Montreal, man, I was like, that team is super fast. And of course, that's the first game of the season for us trying to get this new system. I actually think that they're a little bit too in their heads, and that is making them a little slow on the transition. But then also when you are thinking too much and you're chasing the play a little bit, you tend to make mistakes that lead to penalties. So I think that both of these things kind of go hand in hand with, like you said, maybe learning this new system, that Berube wants them to play. I see it actually way more with the top 6 than with the bottom 6. The slowness. because the bottom six, I mean, I think Berube's style of play, that we are seeing that they are looking awesome. And that is because for guys like that, that's their game. That's the way they want to play. And that suits their skill sets better. For our top six, six being this more skilled guys, I think that it's affecting their team speed a little bit because they're having to think just that little split second. Like, I don't think that they're totally in their heads, but I think they are trying to instill this new system and this style of play, and it's taking a little bit away from their game right now. But this is baby steps. It's early, and eventually they're going to get it. And then their skill, once they're not having to think about things too much, things are a little bit more rote. They're not going to be thinking they're going to be able to. And we already saw it because look, Mitch had that beautiful goal.
Yeah.
Domi and Nylander connected on that awesome goal.
They're starting to get some chemistry.
100%
after the first couple of games. Yeah.
Which actually makes me wonder if they should be playing Robertson up with them, and maybe JT should be moving down and playing with Pacioretty. Because I personally saw that Nylander and Domi looked way quicker without JT in that game.
Yeah.
It's just one game, small sample size. But I personally would like to see them stick those guys together because Nick Robertson, his speed, his work ethic, because he's like Berube says, he's a dog on a bone.
Yeah.
He's going to come up with the puck, and Domi is a great disher. They're going to find Willie in those spots, I think. So I kind of like that combination, I have to say.
Yeah. And I guess going back to, where you're saying looking slow out there, I guess we will just mention it, although I'm not worried at all, is Austin Matthews. Everybody is talking about him not having any points. But, I just think it's whatever. He's just getting himself ready. I think he's putting maybe a little bit too much pressure on himself too. With the captaincy too. It's
expected.
Yeah. I do think there's that, right? He wants to do well, and he'll rack up the points and the goals.
Well, you know what? He's going to break out one game and he'll have 3-1, and then he'll be caught up with everybody else. So, that's the way he likes to do things. Because look at how many posts he's hit. We all know several games where he hits posts. It's basically in short order, he's going to have a game where he's going to break out for a hat trick.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right. So we don't have any ugly.
Yes.
Again, it's
too soon to lay that on them right now.
Yeah.
There's nothing ugly really. I think the games have been pretty good so far.
Yeah. And it has been a decent start for the Leafs. What's caught our eye from the first week of this season? Let's find out and roll the Ladies Talking Leafs highlight reel.
All right. Coming in at number 3, we have Steven Lorentz. Anyway, he had a goal and an assist in the win versus the Devils. He's a big body, battles in the corners, and he averaged just over 11 minutes of ice time over his first 3 games as a Leaf, which is impressive for a player on the 4th line. But he is getting the penalty killing time as well. And as we know, there's been a lot of penalty killing time. So anyway, we've loved his smile after he got his first goal as a Leaf. And he's almost reached his point total for all the games that he played in Florida last year. So go, Steven, go.
Yes, he did. He actually, I think he has tied it though.
He's tied it.
Oh no, he needs one more. He
needs one more.
He had 3. I wrote it down actually. He had 3 points last season with 38 games with the Florida Panthers. So it's been great. He's 23 years old too. And he just talks about his dad being a Leaf fan for in all of his interviews. He's so excited about how his dad is, the excitement from his dad, I guess, is in him. And he was a Leaf fan growing up. There's all kinds of pictures of him and the yearbook where he said, where he's going to be in 15 years. And he's going to say it said in the NHL and being a Toronto Maple Leaf. So he's lived out he's living out that dream now. And
that's why, kids, you got to put this stuff on paper because it works.
Yes. Yeah. And so I guess he knows his role is what it is. Right. Yeah, and I think that a lot of that comes from his previous time under even Paul Maurice with the Florida Panthers and just, just playing that style of game, being a checking style. He's been great on the PK, like you said. And, and it was great to see him get that goal. It was a huge, when I watched the replay of it afterwards, right. And he's going into the corner there. It was in New Jersey, and he's huge, mind you. Everybody else looks so much smaller than him, but he had this massive smile on his face. It was fantastic. So
yeah, good for him.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to number 2 on the highlight reel. It's still the team defense, basically, right? That's what this show is almost all about. Team defense is fantastic. And so having only given up 5 goals and a goals against average per game of 1.67, which is good for 6th in the league, over the first 3 games while spending a lot of time on the PK says it all. And it's a good sign for the Buds going forward. We also loved seeing how invested Lane Lambert is in the penalty kill. That kind of enthusiasm that he gives behind the bench can't help but rub off on the players as well. Yeah. I just love, he was all action there behind the bench, giving instruction and everything. But yeah, the team defense, I mean, it's 2 goals or less basically in the first 3 games, right? It was 4-2 for New Jersey and the Pittsburgh game, the home opener, and then 1-0 they lost to the Habs. So, I mean, low scoring games, which normally during the start of the season, that's not the case. So you can already see the Berube effect coming in there. And, and they just have to buy in. Going back to Stephen Lawrence and what he said during the preseason, he said, like, all the reporters asking him winning the Stanley Cup and like what was needed for that. And obviously there's a lot of things, but player buy-in to team defense is number 1 in my opinion. And we've started our baby steps with that.
For sure. Yeah. And really, like the defense is the foundation. And once they basically get that down, which, it looks like they're really building something there, then the offense will come. So it's just, they have to establish this defensive part of their game, and looks like they're doing a great job so far. So we'll see. I mean, the opponents we've had for the first 3 games, I mean, New Jersey's going to be a good team. But really, we haven't, met up against some really stiff competition yet. So we'll see, as it goes, but so far, so good. All right. So in our number 1 spot, the goalie love continues from the preseason. Both Anthony Stolarz and Dennis Hildeby, aka the Hildebeest, have played really well so far. With Stolarz at 6'6" and Hildeby at 6'7", the Leafs have the biggest tandem in the NHL right now. Both of them move really great for being big guys. Yeah. Stolarz has a .940 save percentage in the 2 games that he's played, and he was the second star of the game versus the Habs, where he made 26 saves. And in the Leafs home opener, he got the win versus the Penguins, and said it was very special for him to get his first win as a Leaf at home in the home opener in front of Leaf fans. And then rookie goalie Dennis Hildeby, he got his first NHL win as a Leaf in New Jersey. He wasn't expected to make an NHL start this early in the season, but an injury, of course, to Joseph Woll and back-to-back game situation made that happen. He made 23 saves in the 4-2 win and made a few big saves when the Devils were on the power play. So yes, so far, like we talked about it, leading up during the preseason, leading up to the first game, that the goalie situation, that's the best we've ever seen it in our time, like forever. I can think like since going back to like when we had Cujo and what's his face? Belfour, yeah. Yeah, but with those guys, we didn't have great backups. Those guys were just real stalwarts in the net. So it was, we were set there. But we've got a lot of depth right now.
Yeah. And it was great to see Anthony Stolarz after the game on Hockey Night in Canada, his interview, and he was making sure that he got that Hockey Night in Canada towel, because he didn't, being an American, I guess he didn't know much about it until more so, I guess, over his NHL career, the past few seasons, and that he found out about it. But then he's like, it really was instilled in him during the playoffs, how all the Panther players, I guess, whenever they got interviewed on Hockey Night in Canada, that was something to be proud of, to get that towel, right, for the interview. So he's like, this towel is going to be in a special place for him. So I thought that was kind of fun. But and Dennis Hildeby, I mean, that was so emotional for him, his interview after the game.
He looked like he was just gonna lose it any second. So
and his family over in Sweden.
It was funny how he said he didn't want to phone them. Because he thought it would be too emotional. So
and finally he's going to be, cross our fingers, homegrown goaltender for us. So, and we mentioned in our preseason shows, like, future is bright for him.
Absolutely.
As long as we,
like, even that Akhtiamov, he got his first win of for the Marlies yesterday as well. So the future is bright in net for us, I think, right now.
Yes, and we still want Joseph Woll to get healthy,
as happy, there's a lot of shots of him looking really happy for everybody. But I have to say that when they were introducing all the players, for the home opener, first of all, Liljegren looked like he was going to cry, which just broke my heart.
Yeah, but I think that before you go into Joseph Woll, though, the Liljegren thing today, I saw that he was actually on the third pairing in practice today with Benoit. Timmins was the odd man out. So maybe the sadness in his face gave some softness to Berube to get him in the lineup on Wednesday night.
I don't think Timmins is that great personally.
No,
so
I don't think so.
I actually think that Liljegren's skills are better. He's just not the bruiser that Berube wants. Mind you, Timmins is not.
He's not either.
So anyways, hopefully he's going to get in the game. They're going to have to play him if they want to trade him anyways, because otherwise, no one's seeing him right now. So anyways, but going back to Woll, he actually looked kind of sad. The fact that he knew this was supposed to be his game. He was not getting in. He was really happy for the guys after, which of course he is, because he's just such a lovely, lovely person. And he's a great teammate by all accounts. And you could totally see that. But I felt for him, because this was supposed to be his game. Right.
Anyway, in Hockey Night in Canada Saturday night, home opener in Toronto. It doesn't get better than that. Yeah,
for sure. All right. So the NHL season just got going, and we haven't really even talked about the Leafs schedule and dates that we should be marking on the calendar. So what do we recommend for a road trip? So let's get into this in our third period segment.
Okay, so before we get into some highlights of the Leaf schedule, there are a few notable NHL dates. So on October 22nd, all 32 teams will be in action that night.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that like a first?
No, I think they do it once I think they do it once a year. I don't know how long they've been doing it, but I think last year they had that too. So the Leafs will be in Columbus that night. On the second half of a back-to-back. So, And then January 18th, it's Scotiabank Hockey Day in Canada. All 7 Canadian teams will be in action. The Leafs will be in Montreal. And the league will take quite a bit of a break in February. We hardly have any games in February. But from February 10th to the 21st, the league will have its NHL's Four Nations face-off. So, And
no All-Star festivities this year.
Yeah, which, I'd rather have this than the All-Star game. Really.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know.
There's going to be a little bit more stakes to this.
Yeah, a little bit. It's not going to be, obviously, it's not the Olympics or anything like that, or like it's just, and the fact that Russia isn't in it still, I know the whole political game there, but and it's right that they aren't there, but yeah, it's whatever. It'll be good, but it's still, there's a couple of things there that make it not so good, sort of. And
for sure,
the Olympics are the epitome, obviously, of international hockey, and
we'll get to see that next year.
Yeah. So Canada plays, just so they know, that Canada will play its first game on February the 12th versus Sweden in Montreal. And then, so Montreal and Boston are hosting the tournament. And then the championship game is going to be on February 20th in Boston at TD Garden. So, yeah. So, and hopefully we'll be there.
Canada will be in there, and so will we.
And hopefully we'll be there too.
Yeah.
We're trying our best. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to the Leafs schedule and a few games we want to highlight. November 20th, the return of goaltender Ilya Samsonov with the Vegas Golden Knights. We'll see how he feels. That could be a win for us because we all know that when he played his first game against the Washington Capitals, he basically fell apart. So I don't know. We'll see. He'll either be really great or really bad. So it's got to be one or the other. And then December 2nd, we have TJ Brody and Tyler Bertuzzi's return to the Scotiabank Arena with the Chicago Blackhawks. They haven't started off that great yet. And I have to say, I don't think that Bertuzzi looks very good in red. So, I missed Bert a little bit in the first game.
Yeah.
But I think I'm over it.
Yeah. And Brody is more of, he did his job here while he was here. He was a good Leaf and, he'll do well in Chicago.
Mm-hmm. And of course, we're happy that all of these players that we've mentioned so far have found other homes, for their games. So.
Actually, I didn't mention there though to the Ilya Mikheyev, Suitman is
that's right,
there as well, even though he was in Vancouver previously. But
so he's like a few seasons removed.
Yeah.
All right. So January 16th, then we also have the return of Sheldon Keefe to Toronto. And of course, now he is behind the bench of the New Jersey Devils. So,
we already have one, one
experience,
game, I guess, with that. But I guess the Leafs Nation can give Sheldon Keefe a hand when.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a video tribute.
Here. Oh, yeah. Right. And, because he was and still is a good coach. Right. So,
expected to do good things with New Jersey this season.
Yeah. We'll see. So a couple more, notes on the Leaf schedule. Their busiest months are December and March with 15 games in each month. And 16 back-to-back games. So
that's a little more than last year.
Yeah. And we're already going to finish off 2, I guess, because we already did 1. And then next week we have another one with Tampa and then Columbus back to back. So, and our busiest home month, 9 games in December. And the busiest road month is 9 games in March. And it's a condensed schedule this year because of that huge break with the face-off, the NHL face-off tournament. So But, so just moving on to some road trips that people might want to look into because Leafs Nation always travels well. One March date that has got my interest is Sunday, March the 2nd versus Pittsburgh. It's an afternoon game, 1 p.m. start time. So that's pretty good. So
that's got to be American TV for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's short. If you're watching this from Toronto, it's only like, the first time I went to Pittsburgh to go to the mall there, or the outlet mall, it only is like just over 4 hours. It's hardly any, it's not.
Grove City is just outside of,
Pittsburgh, like 40 minutes or something. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But still 4.5 hours, drive.
It's not far.
And I don't know how many times you're going to get to see Sidney Crosby play still, right? We don't know. He signed that contract, team-friendly contract there, but they're not doing so great. And so that I picked Pittsburgh. It is a great place for the shopping too, and you get to cheer on our Leafs while you're there. And then
and the 1 p.m. start on the Sunday doesn't mean it doesn't impact your weekend. You don't have to stay over again the next night, type of thing.
You don't want to.
So you can definitely make it home and get to work for Monday morning bright and early and feeling okay
if you want to.
Yeah,
I don't know if I would do that, but and the fact that it is the 1 p.m. start time, or you can check out a little bit of the city of Pittsburgh too, right? And
for sure.
Just hopefully the weather. It is that Sil did point out to me because that is one road trip that we might be considering ourselves, but it might be dicey, but hopefully it'll be good. And then another road trip. We haven't done it in a while. I think we kind of overdosed on going to Montreal when in our youthful
Early
days.
on.
I think we went. I think we've been there like 6 or 7 times. I don't know. We've been there a lot, anyways. But if you haven't been to Montreal for a road game, there's only one left. It's the January 18th game. That's Scotiabank Hockey Day in Canada. We highly recommend you going there. There's nothing like a Leafs Habs game. Nothing like it. Doesn't matter. It's original 6 and just the history between the two teams. Doesn't matter where they are in the standings. It's always something special, and you get to have arguments with Hab fans there, and
which is always fun.
It's always fun. Yeah.
And the thing is with like it is January, so again, driving down the 401 probably not the best, but Via Rail has a really, really good train service that will take you right there. And of course, once you're in Montreal, it's one of the easiest cities in Canada to get around with the train and transit and walking and all of that. So
yeah.
All right. So a couple of away games that have caught my eye is Sunday, February 25th in Chicago and Saturday, March 22nd in Nashville. We've made both of these trips, and I can't say enough about both these cities. Need to make it a long weekend if you're going to go to Chicago, of course, and it will be chilly, so you have to be prepared for that. But Smashville is something, in our opinion, that every hockey fan should experience at least once in their hockey life. So those are the two that stood out to me. I know Chicago, their team's not that great this year, but like you said, like we've already pointed out, we've got some former Leafs on those teams. And of course, you get to see Connor Bedard live in his home rink, which I mean is, always going to be great.
It's a beautiful city. I'll never forget too the even the subway there. Like it's just that old part of the city coming out in their subway and that and in the city and it's just so obviously it's so much better than Toronto when it comes to transit, but
for sure. But I would say that it's really similar to Toronto, the vibe in a lot of ways, excellent food, really good restaurants. It's a really good city to visit. The architecture is amazing. I don't know if they still do the architecture tour. Like there's a canal that goes all the way through the city, and there's a boat tour that goes through where they highlight all the architecture. That's totally worthwhile doing if you get the chance. I don't know if they run it in the winter.
I was going to say cold. Probably in February you'd have to be bundled up probably. Yeah. But if you go there, whenever our listeners go visit there, make sure you do that. It's a fantastic tour. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Nashville. Yeah. I loved it as well. You can do that, hop on, hop off that we did bus tour too to see a bit of Nashville, and it's very easy. I mean, that Broadway is where everything is there. It's right. Yeah, the rink is right there. Like
for sure. And it's a much smaller city than you would expect. Yeah. So it's really just walking up and down Broadway, which is like kind of like walking up and down Yonge Street here. I guess, except Yonge Street is like a way longer street. But also if you're a music buff or into music history at all, it is just the best place to go because the roots of almost all American music is there. And, it's that part too, the history and also really good deals on really cute, cowboy boots. So yes.
Yeah. That's what's great
shopping,
about
also good.
That's what's great for our female listeners out there. You can mix and match all these things while cheering on our Leafs, obviously.
Absolutely.
And in Chicago, you got the Magnificent Mile, right, for the shopping. So it's great. So right now the Leafs are in their first 4-game homestand, and they have 3 of them this season. And in this homestand, they will be facing a mix of teams from all divisions. So we're just going to run through the games coming up in the next couple of weeks. They play the LA Kings on Wednesday night, and then the New York Rangers come to town on Saturday night. So that'll be a good one.
That's going to be a big one.
Yeah. And then the Leafs play their second back-to-back of the season, starting with a Monday night date versus Tampa Bay here in Toronto. And then on the 22nd, they go on the road to play the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Yeah, it's actually going to be weird watching that Tampa game without Stamkos in that uniform.
Yeah.
It's going to be
we
very
didn't mention that in the just previously when we were talking about Smashville and that's that's going to be different to see him in that bright yellow jersey.
Yep. All right. So then next up will be the St. Louis Blues coming to Scotiabank Arena on Thursday. So that will be an important one that I'm sure is on Craig Berube's calendar. That's October 24th. And then the Leafs go back on the road for a Saturday night tilt in Boston versus the Bruins. That will be our first game versus them this season.
Yeah. Yeah. And we all know about that. We don't have to give too many details for that.
No.
But, so it's kind of a mix mash of different divisions there. But, before we go, just want to give a shout out to the Toronto Marlies, which Sil mentioned earlier. They swept their opening series versus the San Diego Gulls 2-0, and Alex Nylander got 2 goals on the power play. So in the game yesterday on Sunday versus the San Diego.
Well, if our power play keeps going like it is, they might have to bring him up to help us.
Yeah. All right. So we'll be back with our next episode of Leafs Quick Hits, which we are going to do our best to have it available on a Wednesday or Thursday. We want to give you the most up-to-date content. So this is why the quick hits schedule is going to be more of a fluid situation, I guess, or fluid schedule. So the best thing to do is to hit that follow button on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. If you watch the show on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button and you won't miss an episode. A reminder to be sure to leave us a rating or review and let us know what you think of the show. You can, it's easy on Apple or Spotify, and it's important for our show to get exposure as a source for Leafs content. And we always thank you for taking the time.
And another way to help us out is by visiting our Ko-fi page at Ko-fi.com. You can follow us there. And if you choose to, you can support us by buying us a coffee. Any donation goes towards helping us produce the show and make it even better for you. So you can find the link to our Ko-fi page on our show notes or in any of our social media profile pages.
Yeah, and there will be some updates on that Ko-fi page. I still got to do that with our visit to the Maple Leafs practice just before the start of the season. They're going to have a lot of photos, and we're going to have some video as well on there. So make sure you follow that Ko-fi page, and if you can, give us a donation. And we, as always, we want to thank our healthcare workers and first responders for everything that they do.
And we thank you, as always, for listening and watching Ladies Talkin Leafs, presented by Bet Online. Till next time, go Leafs, go.
Do you believe?